Hello everyone and welcome to Nocturnal Horrors. My name is Sean Mazeral and I thought in honor of Guillermo del Toro's birthday, we would just look through his entire filmography and rank them. Now these aren't going to be reviews or anything like that, these are just going to be reactionary thoughts, but I thought it'd be fun to go back and look at everything he's done up to this point. He's done everything from vampire films, comic book adaptations, kaiju films, haunted houses, fairy tales, period pieces, you name it, he's done it. There's two things you can tell right off the bat from watching all of his films back to back. The first one, he never feels like a director for hire. He's only doing movies on subject matters that he absolutely loves. And the second thing is that this guy has an absolutely insane obsession with bugs. Blade 2 follows the Daywalker as he teams up with vampires to destroy a vampire hybrid that is clearly the top of the food chain. I feel like I might get a lot of crap for having this as my least favorite Guillermo del Toro film, but honestly, it just doesn't do it for me. The vampire hybrid is so cool, and I love the way its mouth opens, and that part is perfect. You know what else is perfect? Nothing. I don't like anything about this movie, really. I just don't. I think the action could be a whole lot better. We've seen Wesley Snipes, we know how good he is with fight sequences, and I just didn't think this had it here. Even when I saw this way back in 2002 in the theaters, there were some things that were just so unforgivable to me. Like, I absolutely hate this fight sequence and its weird CGI looking effects. It killed me. And even watching it 18 years later, it still kills me. And that's too bad because Wesley Snipes is really good with fighting sequences, and I just felt like we didn't get it. I was actually intrigued by the antagonist more than anything else in this film. At the end of the day, though, every single word that came out of Blade's mouth was so boring.
Nice.
His delivery, his demeanor, it was just so boring, and I couldn't get past it. Where's Simon Phoenix when you need him? Pacific Rim. I'm actually really surprised this is my second to least favorite film of his, because I do remember in the theater seeing it and really enjoying it, but that's also a perfect movie for the theater. It's a big blockbuster, it's got really loud sounds, really big explosions, good fight sequences. It's perfect for the theater. You watch this film a second time and there's just not a whole lot to it. There's nothing to really keep you interested. You've seen it once, you've seen it once. And especially when you're watching it from home, it just doesn't add anything to it. It's humans and big robots fighting off giant monsters to save mankind as we know it. The film's enjoyable, don't get me wrong. It's good, I love Idris Elba, I couldn't get on board for the multiple viewing. A scientist creates an insect that will kill the cockroaches who are spreading a deadly disease to children. This mutant breed created in a lab was supposed to die out after one generation. Instead, it mutates into monsters that can mimic the form of a human being. This was Del Toro's first big Hollywood movie, had a bigger budget, had bigger named actors, and had a lot of big-ass bugs. This has a whole lot of grimy, grit, yucky disgustingness, underground tunnels, the subway system. You really feel it. And with all the bugs came out so good. And I'm not a big fan of bugs, but you can really feel it. And the CGI and the practical effects together, they really, really work in this film. A lot better than I thought it was. It's an older film now, and it worked. You can tell that these bugs were made with love. It's that simple. Now, let me tell you what doesn't work. The one-dimensional characters are embarrassing. I'm sorry. They're really simple. There's nothing to them, and it really brings the movie down. I did really like the shoe shiner and the little one he watches over. I felt like that's where the real heart of the story was, but unfortunately we had these scientists as the main protagonists, and it just didn't work. You can feel the love in those other characters and not in the main ones, and that's too bad. A demon baby is rescued from Nazis and raised to become a fighter against the forces of darkness. In terms of doing a comic book adaptation, I'm going to take Hellboy every single time over Blade 2, especially when you got Del Toro doing both the writing and the directing. The production design is beautiful and innovative, the CGI is gooey and slimy, and of course Ron Perlman plays Hellboy to perfection. This isn't a film that goes too deep into any of the characters' emotions or arcs, but it doesn't mean the film doesn't have some charm to it. There's a vision to it with an homage from the original comic book. It's solid, it's fun, it's nothing that really blew me away, but it's good. Del Toro's first feature-length film is about an old antique store owner who finds a mysterious object known as the CRONOS device that supposedly has the powers of everlasting life. And as we know, there are always people who are looking to cheat death and live forever. So this CRONOS device is going to be searched for until the end of time. This film is a look into vampirism without ever fully going there, instead leaning on the relationships between life and death, as well as family relationships, most noticeably the grandfather and granddaughter, as well as a man and his uncle. The best parts of this film lies within its heart, as well as the secondary characters who deliver the fun, silly portrayals that the director enjoys so much. At times overdramatic with its music, sound effects, and narration, CRONOS is subtle only in its relationship with vampires, and although it might not fully get to where it's going in terms of the emotional strings that Del Toro was trying to play, it's still a remarkable feature film debut. And like most debuts, you can see the director and his stylistic choices and how often they will appear and reappear again in future movies, which means CRONOS is the first code that needed to be broken so that Del Toro could explore what's on the other side of the world in his own fantastical, phantasmagorical way. I don't think I'm saying anything new here when I say that Hellboy 2 is a far superior movie to Hellboy 1. And if you're ever going to have those talks about which sequels are better than the originals, Hellboy 2 has to be at the top of that list. The scope is larger, the villain is more complex, the emotional levels go up a notch, the jokes are funnier, and the fight sequences are better. By the time you finish watching this, you actually really hope and pray that Del Toro will be able to finish off the trilogy with Ron Perlman as Hellboy, because it just works so well. You really want to see where the character would go in that third movie because of the way the second one ends. An aspiring author is torn between love for her childhood friend and the temptation of a mysterious outsider. Trying to escape the ghosts of her past, she is swept away to a house that breathes, bleeds, and remembers. This is gothic horror done right, not necessarily at its creepiest, but at its most beautiful. You got Jessica Chastain, who is playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers, and actually the film is a lot better because of it, in a weird way. Its ghosts are like whispers in the wind, contrary to the red clay soot throughout the Crimson Peak. The film is a cinematic achievement with its cinematography and art design. The story isn't too complicated, which is good because it gives the filmmakers room to play with the backstories a bit more. After all, it's all about the past. And although everyone seems a bit stiff in their wardrobes, this seems like a film that fits our director quite perfectly, and he doesn't let us down. But I do think the film kind of let audiences down. I remember seeing it for the first time and really expecting and hoping it would be a scary, ghostly tale. And maybe that was from the trailer, maybe just my own expectations. But watching this the second time, it was such a better viewing for me because I didn't have those expectations and I took it for what it is. It's amazing how many times our own expectations kill us. The Shape of Water is a visual, whimsical, underwater poem. And if you go to the movies and you didn't want to see an underwater poem, and you wanted to see more of a just straight up creature feature, this film probably wasn't going to work for you. I really enjoyed this film the first time I watched it in theaters, but in a million years, I never thought of it as something that could possibly win Best Picture. I'm not trying to take anything away from the film, it wasn't something I expected. But this is also a film like Crimson Peak. When you watch it a second time and you know going into it sort of what it is, you can really marvel at it way more than you did the first time because you didn't know fully what you were getting yourself into the first time. In the second time, it all really comes together, and for me, I just loved it so much more. I love that the characters are just so different, and the actors really played them so well. I love its homage to the creature from the Black Lagoon. I really did enjoy this movie. But honestly, I love everything that Michael Shannon does. The Devil's Backbone follows the story of a 12-year-old boy who is sent to a haunted orphanage where he uncovers all sorts of evil. There's just so much heart and soul, fear and pain, grief and regret in this film. The film got layers. I don't know what else to tell you. The film takes its time. There's not a lot of fast-paced sequences, but everything is revealed slowly, and it is all the better for it. It's hot and sticky, and we've gone back to what Del Toro does and does well. A misunderstood monster, the eloquent narration, a three-dimensional villain, secondary characters with subplots that have such strength that there seems to be several main protagonists. Every person has their own story. For a slower-paced film, every second matters. Nothing is wasted. You have characters from several different generations dissected as they go through the same gut-wrenching situation of life, country, and war. This film is poetry as well. It's not full-on horror, it's not full-on drama, but it's somewhere right in between there, and it's the perfect mix. I also think in terms of Del Toro's filmography, chronologically speaking, this is the one where he hits it. Like, he just hits it and is like, okay, these are the films that I love to create in this style, in this way, and I'm at my best when I make these sorts of films. And my favorite Guillermo del Toro film is, of course, Pan's Labyrinth. I gotta be honest though, the more and more times I see The Devil's Backbone, the more and more times I love it. I go back to it and I think it's probably going to be slower and a little bit more boring now that I know what happens. And no, it's just not the case. I love it even more. But back to Pan's Labyrinth, because this is a true masterpiece. Again, I think this film works so well because it has all the things that Guillermo del Toro really loves to do and make. It's got so much heart to it. Everything from the fairy tales to the macabre to the bugs, everything that he can possibly give to us to show us how much he loves filmmaking and creating magic and magical worlds mixed with the suffering and pain of real life. That's what he does here. These villains aren't just bad. They are straight up evil. Now, some might say that that's one-dimensional, but no. These characters aren't one-dimensional at all. They are complex. Or should I just say bastard? Because really, it's just the one. The evil in this is as evil as they come. The pure in this is as pure as it can come. The magic is as magical as it goes. I mean, I don't know what to say. This film is masterful. Again, I don't understand how he can put his heart and his soul into a script and then be able to translate that to the screen so perfectly. I mean, so many times you have a script and then you're just not able to put exactly what you want. You always hear directors saying, well, I wish we could have done that, or I wish we could have done that. And I'm sure it's the same for Del Toro. But watching it, you would never think that. You would just say, man, he was able to accomplish everything he wanted to accomplish because this film is a masterpiece. You got vibrant greens against the deepest reds and oranges of fire, reality versus magic, good versus evil. It's all there. It's all up for interpretation as he leaves it to you. He's got some of the coolest creatures in this movie. I mean, these are iconic images that are going to live with cinema forever. That's just how it is. This movie's perfect. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I just thought it was a really good time to go through his whole filmography. It's spooky season. It's his birthday. Perfect timing. So please, let me know in the comments below. What's your least favorite Guillermo del Toro film? And what's your favorite?